Okay, welcome to Hopeifeirs. I am the acapellist Alan Friesen, and with me is brother Scott Sweetman. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to have a hope-inducing conversation. What do we got? What do we got for our folks today, brother Scott?
We've got some really good stuff. We're going to be talking about the relationship between getting all your notifications here, Al. We're going to be talking about the relationship between hope and pause. And we're going to look at that from a couple of different ways. And it's something that I've encountered on my new journey, even though I'm only a couple of days in.
Wait a minute.
That
You're saying hope and pause, like that you need to get a dog as a pet? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like that's a good idea. But no, just in terms of everything that goes on around us and how that can affect hope and how it can affect the outcome of what we're doing and our perspective of things. And sort of what got me to this is, as you know, I've made some pretty strong decisions about making changes in my life and getting ready for the next 50, knock on wood, from my lips to God's ears, as the old prayer goes, years of my life. And one of the things I noticed, and it's something that I've read in a lot of other people's texts and blogs and things, is that there's a kind of a moment of disappointment. And this is something that I know that you will have encountered with people that are, dealing with trauma or addiction and those things. And that's you make a decision to make some really big changes in your life. And so, you wake up from making that decision, and that decision is heartfelt and you're really committed to it, and you wake up and the world's exactly the same. Nothing's changed. And I got thinking about how the world doesn't pause around us,
Mm.
and how that can be discouraging because you've got this new outlook and you want to get into making your world and your life and yourself the best you can be, but everything was just the way you left it. The stack of work's going to be on your desk where you left it. The calls you have to make are going to be there. The bills you have to pay are going to be there. The commitments you have are all going to be there. The addictions, the wants, the inadequacies, the negative talk. Even though you made that commitment, the world doesn't pause. And I got thinking about how important that is. Have you ever experienced that, Al, where you make a big change, or you want to make a big change, and then you're sort of hit by that idea or that thought or the realization that the world is still grinding away, even though you've decided to head a different path?
Yes, I have had that experience, and it's obviously it detracts away from your motivation to make the positive change that you've decided on. Right? You're all excited about it, and then this other static type thing of what you don't want kind of drags you down and takes away from your motivation. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think a good conversation for us to have tonight is that relationship to hope, because what often happens is, as you said, motivation. A large part of motivation, as we've discussed, is hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
The plan
Mm-hmm.
that things are going to get better, and the expectation that if we take action and we put the effort in, that things are going to get better and better for us. And so, of course, where do I go from that initial thought? I start doing research. And so I was able to pull out some good research on this topic and exactly what pause is. And just before we went on air, you and I were talking about what exactly we mean by pause. That was a really great question you had. What would you think pause would mean to you? If you just somebody said you should pause things in your life, what would that mean?
Well, I don't know. I think that, when you hear the phrase that gave me pause, right? It was something that you decided you were going to defer on, you were going to wait on, you weren't going to kind of, you were going to allow that, you're going to leave space for that situation to kind of unfold. Let's put it that way. I think that's what pause means, is that, all right, this isn't exactly how I want it, but I'm just going to allow it to happen, and try and guide it to the way that I'm hoping this is going to come out, and hopefully that's how it works.
Great answer. And I think that you brought out something that's true for all of us. We tend to think of pause as being slightly negative, right?
Yes.
There's that
Yes.
idea that, and that's a really harmful way to look at pausing, because everything that I read, taking a pause is beneficial in so many ways, and we can talk about that because I think it's really important. But also, everything that maybe wasn't dealing with the subject matter of pause framed it quite close to what you did, and that's my feeling too. Oh, pausing is somehow saying almost giving up, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
saying, and so I was looking through some psychology stuff, and I stumbled across a business productivity website, a company called Nimbus, and they're big into document trails and organizing big business, is what they do. And they actually had a whole page on personal productivity and why pressing pause is so important.
Hmm.
And it addressed this idea that in today's world, that we really think we're like sharks, and if sharks don't keep moving, they die. They can't breathe. They used to think that, but I saw a documentary that they actually do stop sometimes and take a little rest. Anyway, there's a cultural norm that you have to keep going.
Hmm.
The harder you push, the more successful you're going to be.
Hmm.
Only lazy people sit around and do nothing. And it's part of our culture. And one of the reasons I'm wearing my Guia Beara shirt and I have Havana in the background is that not all cultures do this. And I know that in my experience of some Latin American cultures, they have breaks or pauses built right into their day.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
have you
Yeah.
experienced that in other cultures, or where there
Not
was
so
a?
much, but I do. What resonates for me with that, Scott, is that I was listening to Neil Donald Walsh just recently, and he talks about, we are conditioned that, well, we need the job and the wife, and then a better job and a better car and a better house and another car and another. So it's always you're on this steady thing that it's always stuff that you have to have, or you believe you have to have, because you think that's what you need. And of course, our advertisers or our manufacturers they prey on our insecurities and our, oh, I'm not enough, I have to do something because I'm not enough, I'll buy this, I'll get that, I'll take this pill, I'll do these things, right? So I guess that's kind of what it's not pausing and being just grateful for this moment. It's, I got to do
Exactly.
something else to take away this discomfort, right? I have to buy something, get something, do something, because this is not where I want to be and I'm not enough the way I am, right? That So the pause, to me, is where you just say, hey, I got enough, I have enough, I can take some time and relax and enjoy this and enjoy the sun on my face and enjoy talking to the people walking down the street and enjoy a cup of coffee or whatever it is that is, pleasant about that, having a nap and a little kind of a regroup, right? So
I think that's an excellent perspective, and I know for me that growing up in an agrarian society, we always had a coffee break in the afternoon.
yeah.
3:30, Grandpa brought donuts out from the city, and everyone would gather, even though we were all in different fields or different paddocks, or we coordinated our training times of the horses so that we'd all be done, and we'd come together for 45 minutes. Let's say usually it was half an hour, 45 minutes, and we'd have some, usually we loved it, but it was too sweet and probably bitter coffee for normal people, and out of some old skanky thermos, and some donuts that Grandpa had picked up at the local Lacombe bakery, and it was a really great pause, and it gave us all a chance to see each other, and to power each other up, as a family
Yeah,
and
sure.
hired hands. We were all there together, and we joked and laughed, it, and we really found, and it's what I remember, is it wasn't a negative. And of course, I left the agrarian lifestyle and went to university and got into business and things. And I find a lot of business meetings are really focused on what's negative.
Mm,
We have this problem. How are we going to solve it?
mm,
What's
mhm.
on the agenda this week? Well, we got to deal with this, and we have to address that, and we have to. And I remember those coffee breaks we took, and they were basically our business meeting. When we and they were really positive. Everyone was laughing and joking, and
Right.
y-
And
you know
you were
even
You were
Sorry.
celebrating successes, right? You were sharing successes, and you were sharing, right, and encouraging each other that, oh, great. And then, we'll do this. This is how this is going to play out. Yeah.
And it was really unspoken, and it wasn't the time when we talked about, well, we needed new cutting blades, somebody was going to have to run into town and get them. Those we discussed after we were done coffee and we're back on the tractors or wherever we needed to be from there. So it really was a chance to reset the afternoon. And even though it was really long days, and we may have started at 5:30 in the morning and go until the dew started to get things wet at night, we couldn't continue, certainly during harvest time. And I know bigger operations where they had dryers where they would run basically 24 hours a day. That little pause might be all you had. You would eat lunch in the tractor, and besides stopping to take a quick trip to the bush line, if you had time to go that far, or just nip behind the big tractor tire for a bathroom break, there really wasn't much other time. So that pause was really important in our lives. And in a lot of cultures, they have maintained that important pause. But unfortunately, as we become more urbanized and we move away from agrarian societies, and as you said, we get on this treadmill, and that's the other way I've sort of heard it described. We have to do, we have to work harder. We have to get bigger. I get a house, and then I have to get a house with a 2-car garage, and then I have to get 2 cars to go in it. And then I need a boat, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I went into the dentist. An example is I went into the dentist day before yesterday. I've got a couple of broken teeth, and the dentist laid out all. I felt like I was sort of in a used car lot, because there was like 10 different options, and it was like, well, this one we can do for $2,000, and this one's $4,000, and this one's $6,000, but the really good one, this is $8,000. I'm like, holy cow, man! I just want so I can chew, right? Like, and I'm sure to some people that, and I have a great dentist, and no slight on him, but it was just funny how, like, and I just looked at my for 5 minutes, because there's a lot of work he's got to do. The teeth are both broken. And then we spent 20 minutes on all of my options and decisions on which financial level I wanted. And it sort of struck me that was a lot of stress for just wanting my teeth fixed.
Yeah.
And, and
now you've got
a
major financial decision, a major health decision that, like, you're dicking around with. Does this make sense to spend $6,000? And can I, does this impair my ability to eat enough, or does their pain? Like,
yeah. And it really is. And it's funny because at first I got a little angry, and I ended up having to apologize. Because I explained to the people there that I'd spent more time filling out forms and being sold which option I was going to do than I actually had in the dentist chair. And so I was a little frustrated with that. So I had to jet down and apologize and say sorry.
Can I just interject one thing too? Like, you say you have a good dentist, you're happy with him. That's all great. I didn't go, my dentist retired, so I didn't go to the dentist for 2 years. I go to a dental office, and there was, everything. And before, my dental health was really good. The dentist would say, wow, your teeth are really good, and obviously you're taking care of them, and do a little cleanup, and you're all good. These guys, oh my goodness, everything was wrong. They took like all these diagnostic things, showed me a picture. Every tooth is pointing a different way, right? Said, obviously this is, you need orthodontic, and you need this, and you need this grinded down. And look at these ones are all crooked. How can you live with this crooked teeth like that? Thanks.
Thanks,
but never going back there again. I found another dentist. He looked, said, well, your teeth look pretty functional. Looks like they're working pretty well. Like, let's clean this up. Are you worried about these things? Nope. Said, good to go. So quite a different experience. One more, oh, you're in a mess. Everything's horrible. The other, hey, you're doing okay. Like, you need a little bit of here and a little bit of help there, but it wasn't an overwhelming, everything's gone, everything's ruined. It's all like, this is, you can't live like this the way you are, right? It was just a bizarre experience, but it was where they were treating what they thought I'd pay, not anything to do with what I needed or what was helpful for me, right? It was
right. There,
I missed that, Scott. Say again.
I said, in fairness to them, that's how they're trained. That's what
Sure.
the business of being a dentist has become.
Exactly.
I know when I was in Japan, there's some really interesting facts came out that dentist was the highest paid profession of any profession in Japan.
Really?
They made more money, but often it was a family business, generational business, and you would have
Yeah.
4 or 5 generations of dentists. But I think exactly your point was what we're talking about is, both of us felt that pressure, and that's when a pause is really important. Like, there was a lot of pressure to pick one of these plans when I was sitting there, and go, got to get them fixed. Oh, you're not going to be able to chew. It's going to change your face balance, and the muscles are going to develop different on this side and that side. And it's like, I'm thinking there at 56, man, how if I take
Yeah.
10 grand worth of
Scott,
dental and I only live
wait a
another
second,
10
Scott.
years.
Wait a second, Scott. I don't know if you should be so rushed. Maybe that modeling career is still a possibility. Maybe you better get your teeth all corrected there so that, you can still jump on the modeling gag.
I can. Well, it was funny because this little gap in the front of my teeth, um, the and it's again, the dentist was telling me, oh, I should get these fancy little visible braces and get that fixed up. And what he hadn't known is about 15 minutes before, the dental hygienist and I were talking, and I said, I've always had this space in my teeth. And she said, oh, that's character. She said, that's really cute. She said, lots of stars have that space, and it's really cute. She said, I wouldn't do anything there. And 15 minutes later, the dentist is in there telling me how for only $3,000 or $4,000 I could have that little gap taken out of my front teeth. Yeah, I have lots of other things I need to do with that kind of money. But the point is, there's a lot of pressure, and the point of the articles I read was that's exactly the situation where we need to take a pause. And that pause, our teeth are not going to deteriorate in 24 hours.
No.
They might, like they warned me not to chew on that side very much, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But taking some time to think about it, in my case, they're all too expensive, so it's not a big decision. But, it really, we're conditioned to make a decision, right? We have to decide now. And if we don't decide now, then we're being irresponsible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's everything from television advertising, radio advertising. It's the sales. You go, Fleur buys this crazy hot dog that's got a whole bunch of stuff on it, right? It's her favorite hot dog, but she doesn't want all the stuff on there. She only wants a couple of things in the hot dog. So whenever she orders this hot dog and then tells them to take all the stuff off, the staff is like, oh no, but you're paying like $8 for this hot dog, for all that stuff. You have to have the stuff on there. And she's like, no, I don't want the stuff on there. And they're like, well, just have a plain hot dog then, because you just eat. And she's like, no, there's these 2 things on there that I really want on there, and you only do it this way. And they'll argue. And Fleur's like, finally, just take my money. I know what I want.
No kidding. My goodness.
Yeah. And I think that we all get into that sort of pressure routine.
But as you were just saying about taking a pause, like who wants you to make a decision right away? Like whoever, the ad you're seeing, the person that is trying to convince you this is the thing to do. So it's not like they're saying, hey, here's some options. You should think about these, and then we can discuss it later on. It's like, decide now. We need to know, right? We got to get on this. And so that is not directed. That's not you making that decision. That's you being kind of manipulate is too strong a word maybe, but influence that you'd have to decide now. And then you're saying, no, I can pause. Yes. And reflect on this and decide on a different course of action, right? Or decide if this is the best course of action, right?
And I want to circle back around to that in a minute, because it's that pause that gives us hope. And often when we're pressured into that, we lose hope because we don't think that we have any options.
Right.
And it becomes really important in a situation where, like we're in now with our healthcare. And I know that in my health situation, I've been told, yeah, of course it's up to you to decide, but if you don't book that surgery or whatever it is right now, you're going to be looking at 2 years from now before we can get you in again. And by that time it might be too late. And those kind of decisions are not the kind of decisions any of us should be making like that, right? Because there are options. Any situation you're in, and I've been with family members when they were facing terminal illnesses, and there are options. There are options on how you're going to face that. There are options on what you're going to do with the time you have left. There's so many things to do.
Yeah.
And,
Like, I mean,
you
yeah,
know,
just if I can just interject one thing there, and you probably know people that, like, they took the chemo as an example, and they had a miserable, terrible last part of their life. And others that just said, forget the chemo, whatever days I got, I'm going to enjoy them to the best of my ability. I'm not going to be sick and puking all over the place because of chemo. I'm just going to carry on, kind of thing. So, and I think that's the system would say, oh, no, no, you have to do it this way. But you and I, as autonomous human beings, can decide what's best for our bodies. And if it's, I'm not putting that poison in, I'll just let my health, let it die, let my body quit as it quits, kind of a thing, without putting all those chemicals and poisons in. That should be a decision we can have, right? That's our choice.
and I think that regardless of the decision you make, and I think we've all been involved voluntarily or involuntarily in the whole vaccination issue,
Yeah,
and there's been so much pressure that the people that maybe had a different perspective weren't even given the option to
right.
express that perspective.
Yeah,
And I think that I've been vaccinated, did it because I wanted to do it, because I weighed out my health risks and I said, okay, I know that there's a risk here. The science is not proven, in my opinion. But I made that choice, willing to suffer the consequences, knowing that I could go in there, have a reaction, and things could go to hell in a handbasket really quickly. That was my belief and my decision. I know people who believe that if they went in and got that shot, there was no choice. They had to do it. If they didn't do it, their lives and everyone else's life was at risk. I also know people that said, whoa, now, I don't go around putting drugs off the street in my body. I don't go around putting a bunch of prescription drugs in my body if I don't think I need them or they're going to help. Why would I run in there and get this shot if I'm not comfortable with it? Right.
yeah, yeah.
And I think what we experienced was those people weren't culturally given an opportunity to pause and really think about their choice.
Yeah.
And, and
There
I
was, I'm just going to say, I think there was a lot of guilt, right? Hey, if you're a good member of society, you need to do this. This is, your body autonomy doesn't matter because you're part of our community. So you need to get the shot for us, right? And that, I understand the logic, but to take away a person's choice that way seems very excessive, right? If somebody was so scared, so fearful about getting that vaccine, and they felt that they had to take that vaccine, that couldn't have been a good thing for their body, right? That had
No.
to have an impact on them in a negative way, right? So,
Well, and sometimes we don't act like we're in a free society, and a lot of people say we're not. Some days I certainly would be in that crowd too, but as a free society, we should have the right to pause and make those decisions. Now, I don't believe that you should be able to make decisions that hurt other people knowingly, right? Like, I don't
right,
believe that I should be able to decide to drive drunk. That's just stupid because
right,
there's no outcome there that's good for anyone, right?
right.
But this was a situation where there was a lot of unanswered questions. There was a lot of unknowns, and in hindsight, we can go back and say, well, the people who said this then turned around and said that, and then afterwards said something completely different. And this was sold as fact when it was not fact at all. And, in hindsight, I think the people that said, okay, I'm going to look into this more. I'm going to think about it more. I'm going to make the best decision for myself, but still wear protective masks. Or like, I've got a friend who lives out in a cabin by himself, and he might run into 3 people a month. His friends are on phone and on Zoom anyway. He's just likes to live by himself. He didn't want to get the vaccine. Cool. He wasn't
Makes
hurting
sense.
anyone. Right.
No,
He
no,
didn't go to public places. He doesn't go to events. Yes, he does go to his local co-op for gas and milk, I guess. But he happily wore the mask when he was in the store and
Yeah.
did whatever else he could do to protect other people, but he didn't want that in his body, and he lived a life that wasn't putting other people at risk.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
argument tonight, though, isn't whether that was good or not. The point is that we feel so much pressure, and
Right.
I know that you were alluding to that, is that it's a great example of how people were pressured into a way that damaged their health. The stress it caused some people was over the top, right?
Right. Yeah. Oh, definitely.
And I think that the articles that I read showed so many examples when people didn't believe they could press pause, how they made choices that they were either uncomfortable with, unhappy with later, and that's a very interesting point, or found out that they were the wrong choices for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But one of the articles I was reading in a business magazine about pressing pause is it said one of the largest reasons for job or career dissatisfaction is that when people start a career, their wants, their wishes, their hopes, their desires are much different than they are when they're 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But they've never paused part way through that and said, do I still want this? Is
Right.
this still what's going to make me happy?
Yeah.
Because they've bought into this idea that the only way they can succeed is go, go, go,
Yeah.
go, never question.
I was just to interject one thing too. What's even worse, right? They decided on a career when they were a young person, and they decided based on what's going to make them the most money, right? Not a reflection on what abilities, capacities, interests they have. Which job is going to make? Okay, I'll take that one, right? And then so if they're in a job that they're not suited to do, even if they're making a lot of money, it's still a miserable existence, right? So and then if you already got that and you're used to that kind of income level, right? Well, then it gets really, really hard to ever move back from that, right? To say, no, now I'm going to pause, right? It means you have to have a huge deal, maybe a worldwide epidemic that makes you kind of, change your focus and say, I'm going to do things differently from now on, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's where it ties in with hope. And often when we don't pause, we lose sense of the opportunity we have to make choices.
Mm,
And that's how I've started to think about it, is that when I don't stop and actually look at the choices I have in front of me from a calm, clear perspective, that often I get a really tunnel view of my choices, often being presented to me by someone else. They're not even the choices that, if I took a moment and or a day or 2 days and said, okay, I'm going to think about this, I'm going to do some research, or I'm going to talk to people, or just think about it, meditate on it, pray about it, I would come up with some options that aren't even on the table in front of me, right?
exactly. Yeah, your dentist today gave you a whole bunch of different options, but there could be you're going to come up with 5 or 6 on your own to say this is the way I think I could do this, or I could do this, I could do this. I don't have to choose any of those other ones. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that in going through this, it also came out that pausing really helps regenerate your desire.
Mm,
And often we lose desire for our jobs, for our partners, even for the goals and the dreams we have, because we haven't taken a chance to pause and rejuvenate that desire.
mhm, mhm. That makes really good sense. Yeah.
And I know that I think that there's almost an epidemic level of lack of desire opposed to want. And I would very much classify those two things as different. Want is a base level. Um, it's not usually with a lot of passion. It's more, and I equate that to greed, or you know, a desire is something that there's a passion behind. That there's something that's really important to you, for whatever the reason is. And I think that when you were talking about people who take a job just to make money, there's a few people. I have a cousin that he picked the career openly that would make him the most money because that's what he desired the most, and he's perfectly happy in that career because he is making truckloads of money and he's happy. I also know people that made choices to jobs that don't pay well at all, and they're perfectly happy and know they can't afford all the bright, shiny, fancy things that other people have. But the truth is, they take time to rekindle that desire and remember why they made those choices.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever taken a pause and realized that you were actually on the right track? You had just forgotten why you were on that track?
Well, COVID was a big pause for me in a very positive sense. And one thing that I concluded with that was that I am on the right track, but I looked at it, what I'm doing, reframed it differently. So in terms of what I'm endeavoring to do is to help caring employers who want to provide the services and products that are going to help keep them and their team healthy, right? So a different perspective, not competing, not trying to, not the 87 ways to close the sale, not any of that bullshit. Just that you've got people, you care about these people, you want them to stay healthy. I know where the services and tools are available here that I could help you get them set up so they can access them to stay healthy. So it's just a little bit more of a refinement in what I'm trying to do, right? It's about their health is what it's about. It's a vehicle to deliver that's going to produce health is what produce or maintain health is kind of the idea. So,
And for me, I would say that that's a desire to benefit other people and to help other people reach their
true.
their
And
goals.
you were just making a distinction between desire and want, right? Correct?
For me, because I don't think that want has that passion. Want has like almost a need slash greed, where I feel that desire has more passion and heart to it. But that's
Okay,
a
Scott,
personal decision.
I might take us off track here, but
Take us off track, buddy.
okay, I'm thinking what you're talking about is kind of the distinction between love and lust.
Yeah,
Love, you want to do something nice for somebody that you care about. Lust is I want this, right? I want that.
yeah, exactly.
You know,
That's a good example, I think, and certainly lust has a place in our biological need to reproduce and move our our species forward, and there's nothing wrong with a little lust in everyone's heart. But ultimately, the satisfaction we're looking for is love, of course. Lust is a temporary satisfaction, and I would agree with you, doesn't have the same heartfelt commitment that love would have. So definitely, I would agree that pausing can help re-inspire us or remind us why we're on a path. It may also tell us that we're on the wrong path for where we are now and that we need to readjust and go from there.
yeah,
But
what if you kind of have that pause and you realize that, man, every Monday morning when I have to go to work, I feel like crap. I feel terrible. Okay, well, what does that tell you? Maybe you're not in the right job, right? Maybe there's another opportunity that you need to find, right? Because it should be, I get to go do this, right? This is what I get to go do. These are the people I get to serve. This is the difference I get to make, right? So, and why can't it be that way for everybody, right? Like, there's no reason why there should, like, if we are autonomous human beings that have choice, and we should be able to choose what's in our best interest, and also how we live our days, how we live our moments, the difference we make in the world, like all those things should be opportunities for us to expand and grow and develop with, right?
absolutely, I, I think that I know when I was younger, the big you need a job for life, right? And the goal, and maybe a little older than I am, but the goal was to get that job with a big company where you started out in the mailroom and you worked your way up to a corner office, and you had a good pension, and that was sort of the goal of every go to university, get a good white collar job, and you'll be set for life. And so many of those people are dissatisfied now and are going into other things.
Yeah.
One thing that was really interesting is that a number of the articles I read said that often when people pause in midlife, they find out that they want to be in a creative career, that what they
Mm,
really want to do is be more artistic or more creative. And when they were younger, that wasn't a priority. You know,
Right.
like you said, making money, getting a new car, paying off the student loan, all of those things were priorities. So the choices they made then don't match the desires and choices for the future they have at midlife.
And they would have been actively discouraged from those other choices too, right? So let's say somebody
Absolutely.
is an artist and whatever, people question, well, why are you doing that? You're not going to make any money doing that. And gee, I don't think you're that good anyways. And gee, that kind of thing. As opposed to encouraging them to express their unique self, say, hey, let me see your art. Great, you're doing that. That's awesome, right? That you're taking this opportunity to grow and develop and utilize all the skills and talents that you have, right? As opposed to for the only purpose of making money and not having the whole experience that is more beneficial, more affirming, life affirming for you, right? So, yeah,
Absolutely. I remember when I had gone to college, graduated from college, and I majored in business and teaching, so I'd done that. And I was looking at going to university, and I was meeting with my mom and my uncle. They were down. We were saying planning things out, and uh, my uncle said, "Well, what do you plan on majoring in?" And I said, "Oh, history. I love history." And my uncle, whom I love very much, but the perpetual businessman, looked at me very, very seriously and a bit confused, and he said, "Oh, that's good. What does that let you do?" And I had no answer. I maybe teach history. I don't know, but
yeah,
I ended up doing history and religious studies and did a bunch of other stuff, cultural resource management. The fact is it's let me do everything I wanted to do because
sure,
it, in terms of communication, in terms of research, in terms of organizing my thoughts and all of those things. And of course, at the time, I had no answer for him. Now I could answer it, and I think that's a great example of how, as we age and change, we really need to take those pauses and say, where am I at with this? Am I still doing what I truly want to do for now?
yeah.
Uh,
I think as well, like with your grandpa, it's a generational thing too. It was right because I
right.
mean, I know that like my grandpa would never regard what I do like, oh well, I negotiate these contracts and I get things signed. Like that's not work. Like
Yeah. What
where's
do
the
you make?
what did you make? What did you build? What did you fix? Paper doesn't count. Like none of that
Yeah.
matters, right? That's kind of how old school they would view it, right? And I get that, right? So yeah.
Yeah. My mother always asks about once every 6 months. She said, "I'm really sorry. What is it you do again?" And my brother, who's been in agriculture, he's a agriculturist for the government of Saskatchewan. She understands that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So she can explain that to her friends, and it's not that she's not proud of me. She just can't. And you work with computers and people and the inter. Yeah, no. Yeah, I just say
Oh,
you do business.
uh,
But that comes up about every 6 months, and it's just generational, right?
yes.
It wasn't an option in her time,
No,
and it didn't exist, so she has no context to put it
no,
in.
exactly.
And
The what
I,
we're the point we're getting at tonight, Scott, is that pause, having the pause, being granted the pause, maybe, or taking the pause yourself, like that pause is a very important part of the experience to kind of reflect on how you are. What do you want out of life? Does this help or detract from where you're going, kind of a thing? Are there other options? And you almost never have to decide right now, right? There's almost always that you have some time to decide, right? So,
and that usually, if you pause, you can restore your hope because you will
mm,
come up with an option that you maybe didn't consider when you were getting pounded to make a decision, or where you were pushing yourself because of some preconceived ideas, and you do lose hope.
yeah,
Most of us do anyway, because
right,
we don't see any way out.
right.
Oh well, I got
And
to get it.
and we're
So
feeling we're being forced in it, right? If you even
yeah,
reflected on something and you choose one of the options that were presented to you, you chose it. You weren't forced on it. It was your choice, right? So, yeah, I think that's important that we get the opportunity to decide on our own behalf anything that's going to have a material impact in our world, right? So,
absolutely. And I think that by reinvigorating our hope, we we feel more fulfilled. And like you said, by knowing that we're making a choice, even if it's a choice to continue doing what we're doing, and I've got friends and people that I know that are close to retirement, and they're like, yeah, I don't really want to do this anymore, but I'm willing to put in another 3 years because I'm still going to be really young, and can, by really young, I mean 65 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm in good health. I could start a new career. I could do art. I could write a book. I could do whatever I want to do. And
Yeah.
so for them, putting up with it for another 3 years, because they're then making that conscious choice, they're laying all their options out and saying, yeah, I've looked at, I could quit now and start my own business and do these things. Like you said, it really makes them feel better about the choice and feel like they're in control.
Yes, exactly. Very important that we feel we're in control, that we have autonomy, that we're able to decide on our own future, our own life.
And I think the last thing we really need to talk about is how the reality is we have to pause. The human body is a machine. No machine is built to run forever. And I know that I love watches, and in the world of really expensive collector watches, it's assumed that that watch will be sent back to the maker to be cleaned and recalibrated every couple of years. And it's just assumed that the quality can't be maintained unless it takes that pause, unless it goes back into the shop and gets all the gook cleaned out of it, and it gets a chance to soak in a cleansing bath and reinvigorate itself, and that's how it maintains the exceptional quality that it has. And I don't know why that we change oil in our cars, we understand metal fatigue or stress, we change our clothes when they're worn out, but we keep pushing ourselves without realizing that the human body is a machine that needs breaks.
Got to take care of yourself. You betcha. It needs good nutrition. It needs good sleep, needs management on your stress, all those kind of things that you have to do, and need some hope, some kind of something you're working towards, something you want to make a difference, right? I mean, those are all things that we all need, right? So, and you're right. You have to be respectful and appreciate and value your body and encourage it to continue to to serve you well, and to heal if you're needing healing, and just to kind of maintain its functionality, right? Yeah.
One of the things I learned in working with you and your other job as Alan, not the acapellist, is that a lot of times you work with both employees and employers to make sure that they understand all the choices they have, because sometimes improving the benefits, improving the opportunities the employees have for health and healthcare, even if it means they're out of the workforce for a short period of time for the care they need, improves the overall productivity of the company. Isn't that right?
Sure, you bet. I mean, like, to get people that their needs are met, their health needs are met, and they can kind of function at their best, have their best lives, and contribute most for their employer and their clients of that employer. That's super. What could be better, right? If you're in a job that you like, and you're in a way to keep healthy and can maintain that, that's a beautiful thing.
How do you think, do you think we'll get to a time where companies allow people, especially bigger companies, to move around inside the company, so that they may have a very technical job for 10 years, and then they may move to a very creative job or an administrative job? I don't see a lot of that out in the world. I know that some companies have those
I'm sure
opportunities.
there's some. I'm sure there's some world and class employers that do that, but certainly that's not the norm, is it? So, yeah.
No, Nokia is one that I know does that. They
Nokia,
have
yeah.
opportunities, yeah, for their staff to take on completely different roles in the
Right.
company at different times. So,
And so it's kind of to help their team develop to their full extent, but also with that full development, then they also have more to contribute to Nokia's success as well, right? And the customers of Nokia. Yeah.
and the company doesn't lose that investment, because, of course, as you know, a company invests in its employees,
Right.
training and office furniture, and there's a lot that goes into an employee, even a
Yes.
very low level employee, that they invest. So by allowing people to move inside their company, they're maximizing their investment in that employee, and they're not letting somebody else benefit from the investment they've already made in that employee,
Right. Right.
which I thought was a cool idea. So yeah, I think that it's a really good thing that take pauses out there. And I know that after looking at this a lot, I really want to encourage people, especially when they feel pressure, either from their own preconceptions or from an outside source, to make decisions really quickly, or to push through with something that they may not fully be committed to feel okay pressing that pause button, and really looking at what you want to do, and coming up with opportunities that other people may not have considered for you. Nobody knows you better than you do, right?
Well said, sir. Well said. So press the pause button to regroup and come up with the decision that's going to serve you best and allow you to serve others best as well. Beautiful.
Excellent. As the acapella says, reinvigorate your life, bring hope back into everything you do. And one of the simplest and best ways to do that sometimes is press that pause button, do a little meditation, do a little self introspection, and just get everything right in your head before you jump back into that hamster wheel of life at top speed.
So press the pause button. Keep that in mind. Keep yourself well. Scott, any other closing words we have to say?
Just live your best life out there, people. Do take those breaks. From the acapellist Alan Friesen and myself, Scott Sweetman. Have an excellent week, and we will be back here next week with hope, happiness, and some positive words for you and your life.
Hallelujah.